Hello viewers, you welcome to the FRANCA'S show. My name is Auntie Franca, the children's favorite auntie. Do you know there is a connection between childhood and adulthood? And whatever you do to a child today can affect the future positively and negatively. Do you know that? Well, this program is to create awareness to be able to optimize the child's psychological, physical, mental and emotional well-being for a better future. And today we are talking about childhood trauma and how to deal with it. Childhood trauma and how to deal with it. Our guest for today is Matilda Owusia, a mental health nurse. Auntie Matt, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
You're welcome to today's show.
Thank you very much.
When we say trauma, what is it all about?
Okay, so when we talk about trauma, it has to do with any event or any experience that causes dangerous effects on a child's mental health and on the child's body. Yes, so that is what we term as trauma.
Oh, okay. So what type of trauma can affect a child's mind?
So there are different types of traumas. We have the physical or sexual trauma that could affect the child. There's natural disasters. There's accidents and other natural occurrences, even with the parents' violent actions that could affect the child. Yes, all these are types of trauma.
Okay, you mentioned natural trauma, that is death, flood, all these things.
Exactly.
And then also you mentioned the other trauma. What is it?
Accidents, and then parental violences.
Oh, so if parents keep fighting in the house, it causes trauma to the child.
Yes, it affects the child's mental health and the well-being of the child.
Please explain that aspect for us.
Okay, so when there's always trouble in the house, when there's violence between the parents, then the child tends to think about all those things. It affects the child's mental health because there's always trouble in the house. There's no peace in the house. So the child is always sad about what to expect when they are home. Yes, so that is what causes trauma to the child.
Oh, okay. So, so what are the general effects of trauma on children?
Okay, so when a child goes through trauma, sometimes they become depressed. They can have anxiety. Sometimes they develop some kind of anger that they don't know about, but it's just burst out unknowingly. Sometimes through their interactions with people, when they remember the kind of things that they've been through, it causes them to get angry and then they burst out in some behaviors that are not normal. Yes, and that's how trauma can affect a child.
Oh, okay. So how do I know? What are the signs to look out for to know that your child has been traumatized?
Okay, so there's depression, there's anxiety, there's withdrawal. Sometimes they don't want to mingle with people. And then sometimes they lack normal social skills. If you see that your child is going through these things, it should tell you that maybe the child has been through some kind of trauma that has affected them. And most of the time, it doesn't affect them from the initial stages. Sometimes there's something we call post-traumatic stress disorder. It is later on after the child has been through the trauma that they start experiencing it. And those are the negative effects of trauma on the child.
Oh, okay. The normal skills of the normal behaviors, you just mentioned something like that. But then I'm also looking at an introvert child. Who always withdraws. As for the introvert, you know them, they don't come out to play. So at that moment, if an introvert child has been traumatized, already that child doesn't talk to anybody. Do you get it? That child doesn't socialize. That child doesn't play with anybody. She or he, the child will be playing by himself all the time. How do I know this child has been traumatized?
Okay, so even though the child is an introvert, there are certain things that the child does normally in the home. Even though the child is an introvert, there are certain things the child enjoys to do. But if at a point in time you realize that even the things that the child used to have interest in, there's been a change in those things. The child doesn't. Sometimes even with introvert children, they like to play games on their phones. Or video games on the TV. Very good.
Stay in there. They have diaries and they'll be writing things secretly. They write things.
Yes, because that is their form of
But then
expression.
if you get hold of their diaries, if you have an introvert child in your house, get hold of their diaries. You will hear a lot of things. Everything that happens around you, that child has already written it. So check it. That is a little secret for you.
Yeah, so most of the time with introverts, they don't like to open up to other people.
Yes.
But through writing, they are able to express themselves.
Okay.
So if you know that your child is an introvert, yet they enjoy certain things. They like to play video games, they like to write, they like to read. But suddenly there's a decline with all these activities. They no longer enjoy doing it. Then you should know that there's a problem.
Oh,
because even though they wouldn't come to talk to you, these are the things they do to express themselves. But now they are not doing it anymore. Then you should know that there's a problem. So you can talk with a child like that. Sometimes they wouldn't walk up to you to talk to you, to tell you what they are going through. But if you should ask them, then they are able to express themselves easily. So it is through communication that you get to know what the child is going through. That is why it's important to talk to your child sometimes. Ask them how their day was. Ask them any events that they have experienced that they think hasn't gone on well for them, and you'll be surprised at the kind of things the child will tell you.
Oh, okay. So, how do we help them? In general, how do we help them? A traumatized child is in my house. How do I help this child?
Okay, so basically, from the onset when it starts, through counseling, you'll be able to help the child.
Oh, okay.
If you talk to the child and the child opens up to you, if the stress is caused by something around them, removal of that thing is going to help them. So if, for example, if the child is being sexually abused by someone in the home, and you open up to the child, you talk to the child opens up to you and tells you, I'm being sexually abused by this person. Then you talk to the person, you remove the person out of the home. Because once the person is still there, there's a chance of the person sexually abusing your child again. So you take the person out of the home. You can report such cases, and it's very advisable to report such cases to the police, because they have a way of dealing with such people. Yes. And apart from counseling, if the trauma is very serious, you can take them to see a psychologist. Sometimes you can't do the counseling on your own, because there are some things you wouldn't know to tell them. That's going to cause them to have a reversal of mind. So, but with the psychologists, they've been trained on how to communicate with children who have been through abuse. So they would know the better way of counseling the child.
And yes, what again? After taking my child to a psychologist, taking the person away from the scene, and then also what next? Okay, so sometimes remembrance of those events causes them to regress, go back to how they were feeling. But then that is inside them. And so that one, what can I do? So sometimes if you know that there are certain things that could make them remember, or certain pictures of that particular person, or certain activities that particular person used to do with them, you try to avoid those things. Everything. Yes, so that it doesn't remember them of that tragic event. Thank you very much. Please take those things away. A man just raped your child, and you are still in the same house with that child and that man. That child will never recover. So if it's possible, take the man away and keep the home. There are so many pictures that reminds the child of whatever they've gone through. Please, if it's possible, take those pictures and those things away to help your child. Auntie Matilda, what are your last statements? Okay, I would say that our children go through a lot of things. Sometimes you don't know that the child is going through these things unless you talk to them. So try to communicate with your children more. Try to know how their day went. Try to know some of the events that happen in their lives. And they would be very willing to open up to you. That is how you get to know what your child is going through. Communicate with the child. Talk to the child, and the child will open up to you. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you so much for watching. At the same time next week, please keep watching. Don't miss this show. There are more to come on your way. My name again is Auntie Franca, the children's favorite auntie. Bye.